In most manga, or just most stories out there, we never begin at the absolute beginning. The point is really never there. Instead, we begin at the beginning of our main character's life before their later change, as they're usually the series' focus. But what about the world before the protagonist? What lore are we working with within this universe? What untold stories are there to explore? This video is going to be on the world of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I may do more franchises after this, but that's for later. Now, the oldest thing that we have recorded in the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure anime is Cars. Now, this is easy, because we know how that went due to seeing his entire backstory and battle tendency. But what I think warrants thought here is what Cars did and the gravity of it, realistically. Cars wanted to become the ultimate life form, and there's nothing wrong with setting some goals, you know? Like, you always want to knock some of those big pillars in your life down. It's always great. The problem that the other pillarmen had with this is, hey, if we become hungry for, you know, like everything, well, what happens to everything? You know, like, and the worry makes sense because, you know, who would want to be the goldfish of humanity, or well, just life itself? That'd be terrible. And what I mean by goldfish, because goldfish are an invasive species. Anyways, Cars didn't take too kindly to that. Neither did they. Huge brawl. Cars and AC/DC killed everyone. Now, when you look back to that backstory, it's like, oh man, that's messed up. Cars, like, but when you take a step back and look at the situation, that's a pretty large problem. Cars took out everyone. Family, friends, cousins, other potential geniuses, everyone. When Itachi took out the Uchiha clan, we were not allowed to forget that. Cars wiped out everyone and just kept the story moving. Now, obviously, that's a false equivalence here, but it is a huge plot point, and the event being something we just breezed through is honestly surprising. I guess that since we didn't see anyone that survived the terror of Cars, the story wasn't one worth telling, but there are two main things here that I would have liked to see. The Pillarmen Society, before the incident, is one. The other is a potential tale of the other Pillarmen that have walked the earth, because what I'm going to tell you in the next part of the video might get some people thinking. Also, this is something that I just got in like post-recording. We thought that Cars wiped out all the Pillarmen. Obviously, like, it seems like pretty likely that he did, but my potential thing all the way to like the far off side, but we also thought that the Hamon Clan was completely wiped out too, and that wasn't the case. But then again, like, Hamon is like a technique, Pillarmen are more so like a race. It's not really, yeah, whatever. The second oldest phenomenon is the stand meteorite. If you're not familiar, kind of surprised because it's part 5, it's been out, but about 50,000 years ago in the world of JoJo, a meteorite had landed somewhere in Greenland. Now, there was someone who had wanted the power of the gods. This man goes unnamed, but it is believed that he is the reason for our stands in JoJo, because in addition to finding the rock, he fashioned pieces of it into what we know as the stand arrows. Now, tell me if this sounds familiar to you. Obviously it's going to, because the way I'm saying it, but still, a man wanting the power of the gods in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, I think Cars and Dio, mainly, at least in JoJo. Here's what I'm proposing. This stand creator is crucial and most likely has some sort of huge story to tell if we were to get into it. I have a little theory that the stand arrow creator most likely connects to us fairly easily through gravity that draws all things, you know, JoJo together. Now, if we were to go into the longest yard hypothesis, more so than theory, possible, look at the stand arrow creator and look at his fit. Now look at the elder pillar lady and look back to him. Now look, I don't know if Araki would have something off the top of his head, maybe more so in his manga logs that he talks about in his theory of manga creation and all that book that he did. But if he was to make a connection to the creator of the stand arrows and Pillarmen, that would be wild. I imagine that there was a group of Pillarmen that have just flown the coop to wander the earth and see what's out there. Or at least he somehow connects it to someone like Enya, because that would make sense that she got the arrows again and she looks pretty similar to him, I guess. Also, there was that whole thing. Remember, people had the idea that the Elder Pillarman lady and Enya looks like that they could be somewhat related or something like that. But we're all just throwing around headcanon here. A different idea that I had is that I imagine the creator was like a deal with his pursuit of power, but someone close to him took him down. Something too, like it just somehow all tracks back to Jonathan Joestar and Dio Brando in the way future. But all we know is that there was a man, he made some arrows, and that was it. Next, this is something that I would have just not probably given a dedicated video to because of how small this little thing will be, but it's very interesting. The 77 rings. Now, this is a little thing that you may have not known about in JoJo because it was one of those things that just didn't follow into the anime. The 77 rings was this challenge in the Middle Age times. It's a challenge where you climb 10 kilometers of northern mountain roads wearing heavy armor. You also have to pass cliffs, rivers, and 77 opponents. After you defeat an opponent, you get a metal bracelet and you have to wear it on your body. This situation sounds pretty bad already, as I am someone that does not like climbing to begin with. But by the time that you're at the 77th warrior, you're carrying over 100 kilograms of weight on you now. That is over 220 pounds for my fellow outdated Imperial System users. Yeah, America. What was interesting with this challenge is that this is something that both Bruford and Tarkus did. Only 5 people have completed this challenge, and there are 2 of them. We also get news of who the other 3 are in this Phantom Blood PS2 game. Shout out to JoJo Wiki for this. Now, I'm going to be fully honest with you. This character design is... it's pretty funny for these other 3 characters because Phantom Blood, you're Tarkus, Bruford, you're like, yeah, these characters are made in Phantom Blood. These other 3, the game was posted in like 2002. Which means it was created in like 2001 or 2000 or whatever. So this was around part 5-ish time, I'd say. And the design is like, oh yeah, let's part 5 mentality. Let's turn back and how we're gonna do this? How we're gonna make these characters? And it's just it's amazing. This is just such great lore. Now for the Hamon Clan and Hamon in general. This ancient technique was one of our first experiences with powers in JoJo. With such a large phenomenon, you'd think that we'd be working with it a lot more. But since we've switched our priorities to stands because of creative differences and Hamon being unable to match the power creep, not gonna lie, the technique got left behind. There was so much to work with as a side story though. The Pillar Men thought they had wiped out everyone, but Hamon continued. Who was the first one to get this started? Even though they say like just like 1 in like 10,000 get this stuff going anyways. But I don't know. Plus there's the whole connection with Hamon and Hermit Purple going on. Like that's still a thing. Did you think that it stopped with Joseph? No, Tom Petty sees into the future. This is a thing. Telekinetic abilities, telepathic, it's psychic. It doesn't matter. We need to push this dialogue. You can look to a few of my older videos for some of this, but yeah. And finally, I will be getting a bit more serious because I wanted to make this a little more spooky. Since this will be a large group of things, let's go over this. The supernatural of the more spectral variety. I had done a video on the gods of Millionaire Village, and when you consider some of the other things you see in our parts and the spoke Rohan Kishibe, it's interesting. We know that yokai exist due to Matsukabe Hill. There is also the alley where you could have met Bremi Sugimoto, and there's a bunch of other spirit stuff going on there. In addition to that, we've seen Dead Man's Questions become a thing, which was after getting taken away by the hands. JoJo is more than zombies, vampires, and stands. There's a lot more paranormal things going on in this bizarre world, and maybe we'll see more through spin-offs like The Spoke Rohan Kishibe. This video was more of a speculative piece than anything, so with that in mind, if there is any other weird things from JoJo and any other series that you want me to see, be sure to comment them. Also, if you've noticed, on the corner of the video, you'll see manga DVD where you can find the specific panels or clips. If you wanted this stuff and wanted to support the official release, you can go to my Amazon store in the description. Thank you all for watching, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace out, and Godspeed.